Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Bridge Broadcast Show. I'm your host, Tina Boyle Whyte, and I am yet again excited to be here with you, sharing another opportunity of spreading good news, spreading information to you about what we do here best is we help you get from where you are to where you want and need to be. And today is no different from any other day that I come on and I'm talking to you about, helping you transition and transform your life, spirit, soul, and body. And I'm excited to have an amazing guest with me on this day, Milton B. Allen Jr., all the way from the East Coast. And I'll let him say hello, and then we'll go on into our interview as we always do. But before we do that, I want to thank our broadcasters, WYTV7, Christian Broadcasters Network, for giving us the opportunity to come and share and be with you, our audience. Thank you again for being here. Now, Milton, welcome. Welcome today Thank you for joining us.
Tina, thank you. It is an honor to be on the bridge today, and it's wonderful being on your show for the very first time. Tina, we've had a very long and very, very productive relationship. Just pushing the ball forward for the kingdom.
You know what, Milton? You are so right. It has been a long journey, and we happen to meet somewhere looking to grow ourselves so that we can be better, tools in moving the kingdom. And you have been very instrumental. You're very inspirational, and the work that you've done cannot go untold. You're someone who's here in America, but doing some very global things for the kingdom. And I'm so excited to have met you years ago and, knowing you today and knowing what you're up to. And the audience, I'm excited to have Milton share his stories. We're going to tell some historical stories. He's going to tell some stories about his life. But before we go, Milton, I just want to bring you up to speed on what we've been talking about to set a context for what it is that the Bridge Show has been talking about. We've been talking about faith. Last season, we're in season 2. Last season, we talked about spiritual transformation and then really hearing your journey and how God has evolved you throughout that journey. And this season, this 2019 year has been a walk of faith for us. And John C. Maxwell is one of my mentors, Milton. And this book, No Limits, blow the cap off your capacity. And so, I know you can tell us so much about that in addition to telling us your story. So Milton, as the first question, talk to us a little bit about tell us about your spiritual journey. How did you come to know the Lord? How did you come to the place of want to be about the Father's business?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question. Let me see if I can condense this. Okay, so I grew up in a Christian family. We were United Methodists, but it wasn't until I was an adult. You accept Christ at an early age, but you don't really have, I didn't have a full understanding of what it was all about. And it wasn't until I was an adult. In fact, it wasn't until, oh my goodness, it was well into the 80s, the early 80s, where I gave my life to Christ at the most unlikely place in the most unlikely set of circumstances. It was at an Amway convention.
Wow.
An Amway convention at a Sunday meeting, and that's when I gave my life to Christ. It had to be 85, 86 maybe. And I've been on a steady path ever since.
Milton, that's amazing. You talk about it happened at an Amway meeting. God will meet us in amazing places on our journeys. I can remember being in college and I talk about this on my show. At the age of 16, I was driving myself to church, and God met me there, and I found him personally by having a little Gideon Bible and writing my name on the back of the book and said, "I accept you, Jesus, as my personal Savior." So that's amazing that you were sitting in a business this conference and you came to know the Lord. That is really exciting. So talk to us a little bit, kind of like the 80s. That's been a minute. And, you know, I'm just really grateful for your season. Today, Sunday, we had an opportunity to be prayed for by our seasoned saints, you know, passing the baton on discipleship. And so, you know, talk to us from the I don't want to say ages of wisdom like you're so old, but you have wisdom that you brought on this journey. Like, talk to us about how that walk has been.
Well, I'll try to condense this as best I can. We talk about the 80s. You see, Tina, I've always been an inside man in the record business. I'm not the guy you see taking pictures and shaking hands in the trade magazines. I was a guy who, I was a behind the scenes guy, a guy who makes things work. But more so than making things work, it's about understanding why they work the way they do. So I've always been an inside guy. And at the time, I started United Artists Records, which is my first record job. It was great. I had so much fun because I was a kid, and they promoted me to a pop promotion job, which is those days you never had black people doing pop promotion in the nation's #1 market. I had a ball, but what I did not know is that I didn't understand this company was a company that was owned and run by gangsters. And it became normal. All the crazy stuff we did was just normal to me. I'm like, hey, this is fun. Then I moved from there to Arista Records as a product manager. That's when I really became an inside person. And so I thought I had really arrived. I said, oh, now I've arrived. I'm at a major company with the #1 music man in the entire business at the time, Clive Davis. And that was a wonderful experience until this was late 1983. They had decided that they wanted to promote me to this big job. So the requirements were I had to train in one department a week. And once I finished that, I would get this tremendous job. And it was great because it's like a nice salary, a 6-figure salary, $1983. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And everything was fine until I got to the last department, which was business affairs. And when it's too long to tell the story now, but when I finally understood how things were being handled in business affairs in terms of royalties paid out, collected statements, and everything else, that's when I saw my first international royalty statement. I realized how corrupt the system was in terms of how royalties are paid out and how, you know, artists didn't know about it. And I just really lost my heart there. I just totally lost my heart. And I decided I'm never, ever going to work in the corporate side of the music business again. And ever since then, I've been on my own. I've been charting my own course. Now, Tina, I distribute, I license, market, and distribute music overseas. 85% of my content is Christian. 90% is 90% of that 85% is gospel. The rest is like mainstream R&B, but no crazy stuff. I mean, like, you know, nice middle of the road stuff with top names. Mm-hmm. And it's been a blessing to be able to reach out overseas and be really engaged in this process. As far as I know, I'm the only guy who's doing this. I mean, at least from the States. So we have operations in South Africa. We export to the UK, to Europe. We have operations in Brazil. We're starting up in South Korea and India now. And so, you know, it's pretty exciting. And so what happens is we are opening up new pathways, new types of aggregations, new ways of exposing product that previously were not accessible to someone, and certainly not in a direct manner. So it's great. It's great. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And the hours are a little unusual. It's a little tough because of all the time zone differences. But that's pretty much like a really short synopsis. There's a lot of stories in there, a lot of wonderful stories. And I
That,
do want to tell you about some of my experiences and how my faith has increased
Mhm.
as a result of what I do, and not something I was looking to happen, not something I expected. But a lot of things have changed, as I've been on this journey.
So Milton, you really hit it on the head. You are international distributor of gospel music, and so you said it so calmly. I don't think the audience captured the essence of what you're saying. And so as you've been walking this journey, the Lord has allowed you to experience the music industry, to see some things from a perspective, and then now you are your own entrepreneur who's out there moving and shaking. And so, you know what? Tell us some stories about faith, because this is the year of faith. Think of the story that will help people. Like you were sharing something with me about Aretha Franklin. Many of the artists that are out there, you've seen them. Give us a story of faith. Jolt us with the faith and show us how God, moves in situations that we can't even imagine sometimes.
Okay. All right. Great. So now I look at I'm a businessman. I've got, business set up all over the world, but I look at my business as more of a ministry now because, Tina, I've just seen too much. He has shown me too much. He has showed me how this music saves lives. I mean, literally saves lives. And I've heard stories, some firsthand. And I'll tell you and so my heart began to change about this whole thing around the year 2000. I'll tell you this real quickly because I know we have a limited amount of time. So I was doing great. I was Mr. International. I'm flying all over the world and all that. So we had Trinity 5-7, the group Trinity 5-7, on a tour on a 5-country tour of Europe. Germany, Sweden, Belgium, Norway, and I'm leaving one out. So, and Netherlands. Okay, right. How can I forget that? So, it was a Sunday night, and mind you, this is 2000. And you think about where we were technically in 2000, we had still not really got into the texting thing like it is, certainly not like it is now. We were limited by the device size, and we had those little things. We did that all the time. So I'm there, and we're doing interview on a Sunday night show. It's a Christian show. It's a gospel show. And so we're doing the interview, and I'm standing at the girls on the microphone. I'm looking at this big monitor. I'm like, first of all, I haven't seen a monitor that big before. And I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing all these messages go by. And they're going by, they're in Dutch, they're in French, they're in English. And I'm like, what is this? And they said, oh, that's texting. Texting. Well, what do you mean? So I've never seen anything like this. And because they're way far ahead of us in terms of technology. I said, okay, great. So I'm standing there looking at the text go by, and there was a few in English. And I read one, and it sounded like a plaintive wail from someone, and this woman had to talk to Trinity 5-7. So I asked Andre, the announcer, listen, can we put this person on the air? He says, no, that's a different system. I said, well, how can I talk to her? So they sent me in another room, and now I'm sitting at a computer. This is my first time texting on a computer. And again, this is 2000. So I'm talking to this woman, and she begins to tell me a very compelling story. And so she said, listen, I have to see the girls. And she told me part of the story. And so I arranged for the girls to meet her in the morning. Okay. And I remember I could hear her baby in the background. And so we made an arrangement. So the morning came, we designated time and place. And I wanted to make sure I was there at the hotel just in case this person is like a crazy person, which I didn't think she was. So two of the girls went off to shopping. So it was Angel and I. And this woman comes, she has a baby who is about 9 months old. And this is the story she told us. She was, prostitution in Amsterdam is legal, free health care, the whole thing. She was a prostitute, right? And I mean that's a legitimate living there. Get free health care and all that. So the number one rule in that business is never fall in love. She falls in love with a John, uh, and and uh, and they end up getting married. He was a Belgian man. He had one rule, and that rule was, I don't want to have any children. I don't want to have any more children. Okay, fine. So she's out of the business. She's living in a lovely place. Everything's fine until she gets pregnant. And so she didn't, she was waiting until she didn't know how to handle it. So when she began to show, she told him about it. The guy just walked up, just left her high and dry. Hey, listen, I told you, I do not want any black babies. It got ugly, just packed everything, moved out, and basically left her with nothing except for a little bit of money. She became desperate. She didn't know what to do, how she's going to handle this baby. She didn't have any family, and she got terribly, terribly depressed. So she had made up her mind. Amsterdam is a city of canals. She had made up her mind. I'm just going to kill myself with a baby. Baby was unborn at the time. Because, they have all those canals, gondolas and so forth. So she had figured out a way to do this. So that show I was on with WYTV7 the prior night, that comes on every Sunday. And she said she had planned to do it on Wednesday of the following week because the time was right in terms of the tides and the whatever, all the circumstances were right. Well, she listened to his show that Sunday night, which she does every Sunday night, and he played the record by WYTV7, My Body, My Body, My Body is the Lord's Temple. And when she heard that, it changed her heart. It changed her heart. And she did not go through with her plan. She gave her life to Christ shortly thereafter. So I could understand how compelling it was for her to be able to share her story with the people who made that song. And when she got there, when we met her, that baby was 9 months old and a beautiful girl. That's the first time I realized that this is more than a business. This is a lot deeper than I thought it was. And so I've seen some of these stories manifested over and over and over again. So it's more, it's all about his grace. It's all about his will. And what comes along with that grace and that will is your own resolve, or my own resolve, to move forward. Sometimes we become complacent in where we are, and we think about things we need to do to expand. I want to open up there, but doubt sinks in. Doubt sinks in. You think, well, am I too old? How will I raise the money? How will I do this? And you debate these things with yourself for a long time. But what it's really all about, Tina, it's about walking by faith. And I had an incredible revelation, and that's my pastor, my apostle, Mike Freeman. He said it. He was talking about building in 2019. And he said, if you're going to build in 2019, you better make sure you're walking by faith. That was it. It was like, bam. I'm like, really, God? That was it? It was that simple? And this is only what is this? This is the 1st of March. You wouldn't believe what's happened in just the first 2 months of this year. And it's about letting go of your fear and grabbing hold of your faith. And so it's amazing, Tina. And I'm really happy about it. I'm just happy about how everything has evolved. and you can't see. I mean, we can't see what his plans are going forward. But as long as you stay faithful to him, as long as you stay in his word, you stay in his prayer, that's just the way it is.
You know, Milton, you've said so much in that story, and just in the year, and I really, the 2019 is the year of faith, and we walk by faith and not by sight. And you're right. Many of us in this journey, as we transform, we let doubt, fear, unbelief come in and attempt to overtake us. But you know what? We have to keep fighting that good fight of faith, and that's exactly where it's at. And you said it. I mean, we don't know where we're going to go. You sitting in that Amway convention and having those jobs in the music business industry. You couldn't see, some 30 years ahead. You couldn't see where you are. And then even thinking about the lady who, doing what you do, how it touched the life of somebody else. That child is here because of the work that you've done. And so it's really exciting to know that when God gives you something, you have to walk by faith. You know what? Is not in our own strength, Milton, and it's not in our strength at all. And even when I think about the word, he will do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And so, you're out there doing this now. Talk to me about, how you blow the cap, how you've been blowing the cap off your capacity, how you don't let limits stop you.
Well, oh boy, that's a big question, Tina. I must tell you, well, part of that is the nature of what I do. Part of it is nature of what I do, and that's because of how I work with time zones. In other words, I like to work in real time in their time zones. So I have some very unusual and very long working hours. And so, to fuel that is, the right sleep, the right nutrition. But what fuels that is my faith. What fuels that is the Word of God. What fuels that is reading, 3 or 4 chapters a day. What fuels that is my prayer time. And so there's no secret, there's no formula about how to do that. But it's about standing on a firm foundation of faith. And so, I've always thought, well, I guess I've done as much as I can do. And then God turns around and you're doing even more. So, yeah, so when you talk about capacity, yeah, there's a lot of capacity out there.
Wow, Milton. As we bring, the time goes really quick. I would love to hear more stories. So you're going to have to come back on the show and tell some more stories as we inspire people around the world. I mean, because you are truly a global man. The places in which where my listening audience go to, you're literally around the world. Talk to us about what are you doing going forward? I mean, you got some exciting things. If you can share, share like where's God taking you and what's getting ready to happen, and after you do that, I'm going to ask you another question. I'm going to ask you to inspire our audience with some words of wisdom. So the first thing, what's next for you?
Well, that's a literal question. It's a figurative question, and it's a spiritual question. Let's just put it this way. God will he will relocate your spirit. He will relocate your heart and bring that closer to him. But he can also relocate you.
Yeah.
And so I would say that to answer your first question, that a relocation is in the picture, and there's a rather large ocean involved.
I get it. I get it. So God is doing some things. He's shifting some things, and he's situating you, and he's opening up doors. You know, he's making way. Things that you've been praying about is coming to fruition, and I'm really excited for you. And like I said, when things move forward, we'll bring you back on, and we'll talk about, you know, the next phase of what God is doing. And so, you know, for those who are out there who are praying about things that God is calling you to do, and places where he's calling you to go, I would encourage you to step out in faith, to step up. Milton, you know, as we think about this, tell us, give us some wisdom, give us 3-4 points, from an entrepreneur, from a spiritual, from a this place of movement. Give us some wisdom as we begin to wrap up the show.
Well, I must tell you something. It doesn't make much difference, what you do or what your profession is, or how you're educated. I mean, for me, it works out because I'm in the Christian music business. But what is foundational is we have to stand on God's word. Now, what does that mean? That means reading daily, 1 chapter a day, 2 chapters a day, 3 chapters a day. But not only does it mean reading the word, but it means studying his word, understanding what you read. I was reading a chapter a day for years, for like 13, 14, 15 years. I couldn't retain anything because I was reading and not studying. So that's one thing. The other thing is a daily prayer regimen. Pray daily. The effective and fervent prayers of a righteous man availeth much. And I'm telling you, in your prayer life, you will see increase. Your prayer life will increase. It's a mind blower. How as you evolve, you get closer and closer to him. He fills up more and more in your life. Amazing things happen. And amazing things come out of prayer. Healings. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, and I guess the last part of that is being a Christ representative. A Christ representative, all you do, even if it's not related to, church or Christianity or whatever it is, but be a Christ representative in everything that you do, in every word you speak, in every thought that you think. And I think that answered your question, didn't it, Tina?
It did answer my question. You know, you're giving us some spiritual insight. And, I'm thinking about the person, they might say, tell me more about being an entrepreneur. But I get it. I get it that the Lord has been leading you, leading your steps and helping you make those moves. You said you were the only man in the industry that you know of. For those, a lot of people, we see a lot of people who want to sing and who want to be in the industry. Is there any insight that you can give us from an inside perspective? They might be Christian singers out there. What can you give us from an inside perspective of, hey, I can sing and I feel God is leading me to sing. What wisdom or words do you have for those individuals who it's like, what, God has given me this gift and I don't know what to do with it. What do you have for us, Milton?
Well, I'll tell you my 3 requirements. I only have 3 requirements because even though I represent a lot of big names, I represent Todd Delaney, Jonathan McReynolds, William McDowell, big mainstream names. My heart and my time and go into the independents. All right. So I've got 3 I've got 3 benchmarks for taking on an independent client. Number 1, the music has got to be slamming. Absolutely. It's got to be there, or so they have the potential to be there. Number 2, they have to love God. And number 3, they have to have their head screwed on straight. I mean, you can be a wonderful musician and have great songs, but you can also be a crazy person. So if they meet those 3 criteria, hey, we can talk. If I can't help them, I can send them to somebody who can. So, and again, it's about being true and letting the gifts. I'm talking about for them, for the musicians, for the song creators. It's about the gifts that God gave them, of them allowing those gifts to manifest themselves in those persons. So, you know, that's about spiritual maturity. But, you know, I'm open, because if somebody sends somebody my way, they've been sent my way for a reason. So I will always take time to be able to evaluate it properly. But those are my 3 criteria.
Milton, that is just absolutely amazing. And like I said, time would not allow us to be able to hear all kinds of stories that you have, you know, as we've talked over the years. But, you know, really at the core of it is really, you really hit it, you know, walking by faith and living this life of faith and reading your word and studying your word, you know, study your word to show yourself approved. You know, rightly dividing, needing not to be ashamed. That scripture that talks about that in Timothy. You know, and I love that you're leading this with your life in Christ, because, you know, what we do in him is what's going to last. And so thank you, Milton, for sharing your faith and your profession and your example of Christ on the earth as a representative in the music industry. And, you know, we hear those people, we see the names that you have, but you say it goes back to the core. And you know what? With that being the core of you, who you are, Milton, there's no limits to what you can do. So your capacity is going to be blown off, because all things are possible to them who believe. So there is nothing that you cannot do through Christ. So I just want to thank you for just being with us today. Is there any final thing that you want to say to us as we go?
You know, the life I want to lead is the E320 life. You know what that is, right?
Okay, talk to us. Ephesians 3:20.
Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Tina, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my God, Milton.
I hope we can do this again.
Milton, without a doubt, we have to do this again. They only got a little taste of you, and I thank you for ending.
And I've got special guests to include on these shows.
Oh, I know.
They're doing amazing things. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have so much to share with the world. And so thank you, Milton, for being with us. We are blessed. Now, those of you who are here on the Bridge Broadcast Show, I hope you come back. Milton, how can people get in touch with you? Or is there a website? What
Yes. It's Global Music Link, LINK.com. globalmusiclink.com. There's a contact form on there. If you contact me, you will get a response almost immediately. Global globalmusiclink.com.
Wow, Milton, that is just absolutely amazing. And anybody who's listening to this broadcast show and you happen to hear this, just say that you heard it on the bridge. And if you want to, reach out and connect with me, because God has allowed me to know some amazing people, reach out to me, connect with me on Facebook, connect with me on my personal page, Tina Boyle Whyte, WHYTE.com. Hook up with me, connect with me. WYTV7, find me. Just find me. God has allowed those amazing relationships to exist. And if you've been sitting there wondering, God, how are you going to open up a door and make a way? Reach out, because you never know what's going to happen. Well, it's been my pleasure, your host, Tina Boyle Whyte, being with you on today. I look forward to seeing you. And until next week, be blessed. Bye.
Yeah, Tina, bye for now.